Well, let's open it up. We have a lot of teachers in the room who I'm sure have questions. Let me just see what questions we have for our guests. I know there are some.
So going back to
Can you say who you are, just where you're from?
Melissa Cropper, I'm an AFT Vice President and President of the Ohio Federation of Teachers. So going back to your original comments about Singapore and how parents were pushing back a little bit, I'm curious, how long has it been since you started cut 30% from the curriculum? And I heard you say before that you really wouldn't care if PISA scores drop, but would there be a reaction from parents and stuff if the PISA scores drop as a result of this 30% cut?
Actually, parents don't care about PISA score.
Okay.
It's irrelevant, right? Because how my child does in school and in the world, that matters more to me, right? For the cut of curriculum, it started since 1997. 1997, we started this notion of a school, thinking schools, learning nation concept, right? And then we introduced this teach less, learn more philosophy, right? So that's where we started. It'll take us some time, but the thing about education, we keep it out of politics, right? And parents can say whatever they want to say. At the end of the day, I know my minister will say, let's listen from the teachers. This is what the teachers are telling us. This is what my educators are telling us. And half the Ministry of Education is filled with educators, right, who go in and out of school all the time. So they are not like career policy makers per se. They go into schools. Like I spent 3 years teaching. I spent 6 years in the ministry, and then I went back to school again. So that porosity helps to see what's happening in the school, and this is your policy planning, and then did it actually work, so that kind of thing happens. So at the end of the day, our take is keep education out of politics, let the educators plan, the policy makers bring in the finances for us, and that's how we work it out. But there will be resistance, obviously, but I think even parents know that this system is a top-notch system. Then let the professionals run it. Yeah.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, teach less, learn more. I think as teachers, we understand that and love that.
Yeah.
I think, like, my quick take on that is in the American context, every politician in the world would rail on you and say, see how insane these teachers are. We've just got a very toxic political environment right now. But it's possible. American teachers, at least they did a few years ago, last time I saw, we teach actually work more hours in a day, like in the classroom, than just about any other developed nation. And we've long been saying we have to change that and get more professional development time in there. It'll be more productive.
So I was just curious.
This is Evelyn DeJesus, Executive Vice President of the AFT.
I was just curious. Many of you said that you're starting with curriculums, right? And my sister said about large class sizes. So how is teacher burnout? Because I know how hard it is. I mean, these teachers after COVID are working. You said they were happy with the previous curriculum. Now they have to learn this new curriculum, which a lot of us now with the science of reading, everything's changing in America. But our teachers are burnt out, and people are not going into these professions, and there's a lot of mental and anxiety and stuff. Is that happening? I was just curious to see if that's happening in your territories also.
Go ahead.
Yes. It's quite a short answer, and we can extrapolate this to the nation, but the numbers from British Columbia, the last ones we looked at, because our Ministry of Education and Government has put together a workforce group because there's such a shortage in the workforce overall, teachers, support workers, you name it. And the last numbers we looked at is that the attrition rate in the first 8 years has tripled in the last while. So we are having intense burnout. There's a lot of reasons for it. COVID certainly had an impact on it, but we could have a long conversation about the structural things that are leading to that. Large class sizes, not enough teachers, new things dropped in without appropriate supports and funding, and so. But for us, it's our number one issue. Actually, we've flipped from saying recruitment and retention to talking about retention first, before we try to bring new people into the system.
Interesting. Yeah. We have to remind our political leaders that it's a retention problem.
Yeah.
I had a conversation this past year with our lieutenant governor, because she wanted to lead a teacher recruitment task force. I said, well, we got to talk about retention. She's like, what do you mean? You know, she had no concept that that was an issue. So I really love that, flipping that. Do you think the expansion of experiential learning, the land-based learning, whatever, if it gets expanded more in Canada, is that part of the solution to teacher retention and recruitment?
I think so, with the same asterisks as everything. If it's done with enough support, if it's done with the financial backing to make sure that it's equitable, so we don't have teachers in one district looking next door and going, why are they doing robotics and going out canoeing, and I can't even leave my classroom to print things. So, you know, yes is the short answer. There's a big asterisk behind that of how you have to do that to make sure it is beneficial and supportive.
Thank you. Yeah, Jamie's question.
Yes, hi, Jamie Safone, Executive Vice President of New York State United Teachers. Anne-Marie, I heard you talk about taking cell phones and iPads technology essentially out of classrooms. This is for any of you, but because you referenced it. We're starting that in New York State. We're starting, and we have the governor on our side, and we're doing a full press campaign to ban cell phones from schools. But we're just starting. So could you talk a little bit about where you are in that process and maybe what you faced as some challenges?
Yes, if you look at it in the national level, there is no issue because most of the schools locally have agreed with the students. They have this mobile hotel or different solutions that they have been working out with the student at the school. In Norway, we also have this student council, so they talk on behalf of the student and they work it out themselves, most of the places. But the minister has now, there is a national law that there should not be mobile phones in the classroom at all. And that's, in one way, that's a good thing, and everyone thinks it's a good thing. But on the other hand, it's something about the teachers' professional autonomy in this as well. And of course, the students are protesting because of their. It's a personal thing for them. But that's not that a big issue. And then you have like the iPads versus the books, and that's a bigger discussion. And you have all the spectrum that there are a lot of teachers using IE and iPads and everything in a very good way, and some do not use it. Some get forced to do it. So we have all those specters, and I think we are just in the beginning of what we should do with it. But the politicians are, the lefts are like, oh, you on the Labour Party, you are so old school and you don't want to see the world going forward. And the Labour Party are saying to the left that, oh, you are so progressive and so blind for what these things will do with the students. So I would really like to have it like in Singapore, that the politicians didn't, because they are the politicians that are doing this a big discussion in the schools. If we just let the teacher and the students find these things out themselves, they will solve it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, let's end. Well, let me see if there's another question. Okay, go ahead.
Pat Kiefer from the AFT International Department. I want to ask a question. We talk about experiential learning and teaching on a pathway to workforce development, which several of you have commented on in different ways. Wondering how the collaboration with the private sector works, whether it's companies or the farm, the agriculture industry. What's the relationship between the education system, the workplace in companies, and the teaching profession, and then the point that you made about the intervention of the actual teacher unions in this, and how that kind of gets brokered, so to speak. Because as we're working on it, as you heard Randy talk about the other day, it's sort of setting the students' direction in terms of being, getting prepared for the workforce itself in the workplace, as opposed to the university track.
Who wants to take that?
I'll jump. Right. I just had a discussion with my minister about 2 weeks ago, and he knows the unions are actually far better connected to industry than the schools are. Right. So he's requested the unions to participate in that endeavor to build that partnership between industry and the schools. Right. And that's what we're going to do, because I think it's critical for us to be the interlocutor of that relationship, so that at the end of the day, I know for sure the industry is not going to impose anything on the schools. Right, the ministry will make sure of that, right? Because it's hands-off kind of thing. But if the schools want to get involved, they need the capacity. It's like building a whole new program of things. You need an extra manpower, essentially, to build this relationship, to liaise. You cannot leave it to the teachers, per se. But teachers don't have time to do this kind of work. I think that kind of relationship has to be built up, and the unions can play a role, because we have unions in all sectors, right? So we can link them up. Yeah.
Anyone else on that? Thoughts?
I can just briefly say that yes, teacher have to teach student for the future, but in Norway we are kind of very skeptical to that the industry and that they should define what the students are going to learn in school. So I think we still have because we have to, of course, talk to the companies and the industries, but these big companies that we think actually that they have more power than we as a union have. They listen to the politicians, listening to them and not to us sometimes. So we have, it's an issue for us. We know that we have to have some kind of relations, but we are not quite yet there that we trust them to say it in an easy way. Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'll be very quick. It's not clear in our country. It's done almost always at the district or even the school level, what those are and what those relationships look like, which is not a good thing. And we're more closely aligned to what you said, which is we're members. There's unions in almost every area of industry, and we do talk to them a lot, and we talk about apprenticeship programs. We do that work, but there's a very significant that is private sector that doesn't have unions, and the power differential there is concerning to us as well.
Yeah.
And I think just a couple quick quotes of what things I've said at these kind of meetings is I've never seen a work experience program for a poet. I'm like, so where does that child go, right? And I think that's for me of yes, I live in the world, I recognize industry, I know we need workers for things, but who decides how many, who decides which students go there is the thing that we need to be focused on. And again, they have to be equitably accessible. You can't we have a mine in town, so the work experience program we have is mining. And that's it. There's nothing else, right? So I think we're more cautionary as well. But to be fair, we don't have. I really want to learn more about Singapore because we don't have that confidence in our ministry and our government of being a support in that work as well. So.
Well, and the world of work is shifting so quickly with AI and everything else that workforce development is just in and of itself. I mean, aside from the tension of are we just training workers, right? We want to train human beings and teach and grow developed human beings with, strong critical thinking skills. But but you're also trying to train them for the world of work, which we're not even sure what it looks like. So the ground is shifting so quickly under us as educators that it's a very hard environment to be in. And so you guys, this is a really helpful discussion to sort of put some specifics on what does this look like. like, trying to do experiential applied learning, problem-based learning in all
Yeah.
these contexts. This is fascinating and helpful. I want to go to every one of your countries and see what's
You're
happening. And I think, it will be really interesting. I hope Shankar can do this in 5 years at the next Congress, to have us meet again and see what's changed from this discussion to, if anything, some things will change, to where we are in 5 years. And maybe there'll be a applied work-based program for poets by then.
I live a dream.
We can dream.
Well, thank you, Clint, Milo, and Mike, so much for being here and
Thank you.
helping us understand this. Give them a round of applause. And now we go to the plenary, where the first resolution we're going to debate is teacher shortage. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
It was really great.
Thanks,
I
Clint.
loved your,
All right.
I loved your point about, by the way, we didn't, I loved your point